Yes, Francisco Lindor is my MVP. He's your MVP, and if he is not the most valuable player out of the National League by the season's end, then this is a rigged job unless Shohei Ohtani comfortably gets to 50-50, which I'm sure will happen. But Mr. Smile is doing everything in his power to make sure the Mets make playoffs, as they have secured their 6th straight victory, another series dub, this time against the Boston Red Sox, to give them now their 5th straight loss on this season, which we love to see. Spam those W's in the live show to everyone first chiming in live on a replay to the latest New York Metropolitan post-game show presented by BetUS, America's #1 sportsbook that has you covered all your sports betting needs. And folks, I am absolutely juiced up when we saw Polar Bear Pete with the insurance bomb, the dagger, the cherry on top. I knew that the boys are going to continue to roll, baby. A nice comfy victory against the Red Sox. Mr. Smile doing all he can. David Peterson on his 29th birthday having a career-high 11 strikeout outing. He is now the first Mets pitcher in history that has recorded 11 strikeouts on their birthday. A lot of history was made here tonight in a victorious matchup for the Mets over the Red Sox yet again, and I want to see not only those W's spam the live show to all my live viewers here on YouTube, and I greatly appreciate every single one of you guys. If you're watching on Twitter X, make sure to hit that like, that follow button, that retweet button. But no, as always, I'm only going to interact with our live viewers here on YouTube per usual. Help us get a 27K for our next short-term goal. Thank you all so much, everybody. We got our Electric Live members here in the show that I'm going to address here in a second. We're going to deep dive the ins and outs about this victorious matchup and why David Peterson continues to roll and how the Mets now find themselves tied with the Atlanta Braves for that wild card spot. But should the Braves win against the Rockies tonight, which I'm sure will happen, if it hasn't already, the Mets will still be a half game out, but that's okay. We got more baseball to be had here. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Us Mets fans know that more than most, right? And on the pitching end, David Peterson, the young southpaw, with another brilliant outing for the Mets. This isn't a fluke. This isn't Fugazi. David Peterson is really becoming the real deal. On the heading end, we're going to talk about what started off so piss poor for the Mets in the beginning outside of Lindor became a nice coming home party for a lot of key Mets bats, including Pete Alonso in garbage time, as you'd expect, but you can never have enough runs no matter who you're facing. The Mets made sure that they piled on that insurance and won this one comfortably. Spam those W's, everybody. That is what I want to see in the live show right here, right now, as we always do. And not gonna lie, AJ with the $2 haul says they had us in the first half. They did have us in the first half. Rebecca, great member. Dominic, great member. Mike, great member. Rebecca again. Chris going up the list. Sean MD. Dave Kaplitz, wherever you are. Chris, James Carroll, how are you? Everybody first chiming in. Mike O'Brien chiming in live on a replay to the latest Metropolitan post-game show, folks. Make sure to click that link down below in the description. That way you too get 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 if you haven't already for all your sports betting needs. But folks, before we break down this masterful win and the Mets continue to roll here, 6-game winning streak that we have for the Metsies, and we also have some big updates to get into on David Stearns. I had a lot to say about Mr. Smile and Francisco Lindor today. We're going to share our thoughts on Stearns' comments, along with the latest updates on Paul Blackburn at his rehab start. We'll break that down, and I will then cut things out for my replay viewers as I will post it as an individual video early tomorrow, either in the morning or absolute latest, 11 or 12 p.m. Eastern, but might be earlier because I posted my clip today on Sega and others, and it performed well. So we'll probably do the same thing earlier in the morning, barring changes. But folks, before we get into anything else, because we got donations from 2 amazing Mets fans here, let me address them quick, then you know exactly what we're going to do. Robert, you said, Tyler, you really cheer me up a little. I don't know why you're upset, Robert, but I hope you're turning that frown upside down, and you got to be smiling like Mr. Smile himself. My girl, talking about my girl, you'll love to hear it. And to add it, guys, I'm not trying to say you're welcome for Francisco Lindor's brilliance with this home run today, but I did call it. I called it before anyone else. You guys can check the receipts. Go on the Twitter for my personal Twitter, at WardyNYM. Follow that, and at the WardyNYM for all Mets coverage that we have there as well, folks. But you guys got to check this out real quick. I tweeted this earlier today at approximately 6:55 p.m. Eastern. I was just heading back from a long day out with my amazing girlfriend and our beloved son, Shay. Shout out to Shay, as always. And I see this pop right on Spotify, right as the next song. I had a Hall & Oates playlist going on. We were vibing good today. We love to see it. Shout out my Hall & Oates fans out there. And My Girl by The Temptations played. I tweeted that out and I said the following, and I quote, "Kid you not, this just came on my Spotify radio. Francisco Lindor homer tonight is officially a lock." So to anyone of my sports bettors out there that hammered Lindor to absolutely hammer at least one home run tonight, you came out winning big, and rightfully so. I'm very happy that I finally called something. I don't do it too often, but that was just a funny little coincidence there. Gates with the $5 haul says, 30-30 MVP year is inevitable. Let's get into playoffs. Mr. Smile is doing everything, and I truly mean everything, to make sure that that potential reality becomes a reality for this Mets team. I have a lot of confidence that the Mets are going to continue to roll and take everything day by day, hopefully to lead them to the promised land, which is at least playoffs here by the end of September. Pat with the $5 haul says, rolling Cy Young, Peterson, MVP, Lindor, Swaggy V, all coming in clutch. Marky V got an absolute no-doubter of the hander down the middle, and he took that one big time for a big bomb, his 22nd of the season. We're going to break down the ball game to an absolute T as we always do, but enough of me rambling, folks. Let's let it rip with the official, the one, the only, the yes, WardyNYM post-game jingle.
Postgame. Postgame. Calling all Met fans, come and join us now. Talk about this game and gonna break it down. It's Mets Postgame.
Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan, with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. D said it's so bad it's good. I don't know where you guys stand on the jingle. I know a lot of you guys love it. I know some of you guys hate it, but I thought that comment was hilarious because no matter where you stand, it's such a staple part of the show now that it feels truly sacrilegious if I'm not ripping that WardyNYM post-game jingle here after a victorious matchup like this one. But I want to see those W's spam. I don't care if you just chimed in or if you've been chiming in. Continue to spam those W's in the chat, in the comments down below. And if you're listening to this wherever you get your audio podcast, Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it, make sure you leave a 5-star review if you found yourself enjoying it. And I do apologize. There's some echo. I'm out of town. I don't have the best mic set up at the moment. When I got my Shure SM7B, literally the Joe Rogan podcast mic, just waiting for me that I got to use again. That'll be happening soon. But in the meantime, if you guys can make sure to follow on those platforms if you haven't already, thank you so much for doing that. Need the Truffle Shuffle says, Eddie, love that. Dave with a $5 haul says, Lindor, Vientos, Alonso, LFGM, Dave, thank you for the donation. Great member and friend here. D-Mac with a $5 haul has this to say, I was getting a little concerned. Will anyone besides Lindor contribute? Are we like the Yankees, then Vientos, Alonso, ... Isn't it the most perfect situation when you think the Mets are going to crumble the way that they did after Jose Butto walked back-to-back batters after a beautiful first inning of relief in the 7th and not so beautiful 8th. Reed Garrett somehow escaping that jam. We'll get into that here shortly. And before that escape jam happened, this felt like a game where the Mets were treading water offensively all day. If it wasn't for Mr. Smile being the hottest batter quite literally on the planet right now, the Mets wouldn't have much offense to show. But then the insurance comes in, and then the absolutely towering against that bullpen is huge. And to add insult to injury, everybody, the reliever that gave up the home run to Marky V in this matchup is the same reliever that the Mets traded this past offseason, Slayton, to the Red Sox in return for southpaw reliever Ammons, who has been the Mets one of, if not the most dominant southpaw relievers they have in the minor leagues right now. The guy has been absolutely unhittable. He has been disgusting, and he will impact this Mets bullpen probably as soon as next year. So a nice little note to add in there with the contributions from the Mets and where it came from versus who they did it against. Zach Flagerton with the $2 haul in here says Jarren Duran needs a tennis racket. Look, Duran had a big first hit there against David Peterson, I believe, for the first hit of the day. But after that, this was a ball game where David Peterson had control. And that is where we're really going to deep dive the brilliance that was David Peterson after an 11 strikeout outing across 6 innings. We're going to do a complete deep dive with our pitching analysis that is going to come from Isaac Rothman, our great pitching contributor. Make sure to check out Isaac at ISAACGROFFMAN for all your Mets prospect needs, pitching threads needs. He does a tremendous job, and he's only 19 years of age, guys. Yes, he's that smart, he's that savvy, he's that young. run, which means by the time he's in my shoes, he's going to be dominating the entire space when it comes to pitching profiling, as he's already leading the way in that regard with just fantastic breakdowns. So informative, and I cannot wait to get into all the details on Peterson's brilliant outing. Let's see. All right, guys, let's get up in this one. Needs a 10. Oh, now I understand the reference, Zach. I'm so sorry. Well, holy shit, that went over my head. Just like the GIF, if you know Superman, when he's looking around and it's like the joke is above him and he's trying to get it. That's how it was with the tennis. I'm very slow. I apologize for that one. All right, guys, let's break down what transpired in this victorious matchup for the Mets, because afterwards, I got a lot of updates to get into. I was very pleased with David Stearns' presser today. We're going to get into the latest farm report, what stood out for the Mets on the minor league front, if anything. Paul Blackburn, some interesting updates on Sean Reed-Foley that I'm not too happy about to break down, but we will, and others, everybody. But make sure to smash a like and subscribe on as you chime in. And everybody, can we collectively in the chat just spam a happy birthday to David Peterson and a thank you? Because on a day where it's a man's birthday, you'd imagine that when it's your birthday, you receive gifts. You're not the gift giver, but that is what David Peterson was for us Mets fans and this brilliant start, going 6 innings of 1 earned run baseball, career high 11 strikeouts. Let's break down now exactly how he got there. Told y'all before the season, Peterson been special all season, most consistent by far. He wasn't consistent all that much in years past. He had a breakout that we saw in 2022 for sure, but Peterson, who's dealt with ailments throughout his past number of years in his career, trying to find consistency if he's more of a ground ball pitcher, a strikeout pitcher, and he has found a brilliant balance between the both that we have seen this season. But guys, let's break down now the greatness that was David Peterson in this matchup. We're already at 100 likes, basically. Thank you so much for that to my 500 concurrent viewers in here. And guys, I got some amazing news for each and every one of you as a sincere thank you for the endless support. And because it's long overdue, I am going to be taking 3 to 4 callers tonight at minimum. So guys, buckle up. Before we wrap up the live show, I will be taking some live callers. So I hope to see you guys all there for that one, as long as I don't have any hiccups with it, and as long as I don't take too long breaking down the ball game. Apologies in advance for my live viewers on YouTube, as you will not be able to watch the live caller segment, as that'll be our final segment of the show that'll be cut out after the fact, along with our Big Mets update segment that I will post separately on the channel tomorrow morning. So apologies there for my replay viewers in advance. But guys, let's break this one down now, as I want to get to some of your calls for show. The jingle wasn't running again. Okay, the show, the post-game show music is in your head. It better be in your head, Alvin. If you don't hear post-game, post game. If that is not running in your head, then something's going wrong, because you have not been watching the channel enough. All right, guys, let's get into this one. David Peterson on the bump against Cutter Crawford. Cutter with a very, very interesting release point. Cutter Crawford has little to no extension whatsoever. It's like he's half throwing the ball every single time it comes out of his hand, and he has a lot of success, especially when it comes to those high fastballs. Both David Peterson and Cutter Crawford alike were striking out literally everyone and their mother the first half of this ball game. You know, Jarren Duran got on with a 1-out single, but that's all she wrote. We saw back-to-back strikeouts there in the first for David Peterson on O'Neill and Devers. Brilliant work there. Mets go down order in the first themselves. Then in the top of the second, we see a 2-out single for Danny Jansen, the former Toronto Blue Jay, and then a nice, gorgeous strikeout there on Raphael to end the inning. David Peterson with 4 strikeouts throughout his first 2 innings of work here in this one. The Mets go down in order as Cutter Crawford surprisingly strikes out the side against the Mets, and which their lineup tonight was as follows, folks. Lindor batting leadoff, surprise, surprise to nobody. Nimmo there, that was commanding center, then shifted to left. Nimmo's center field defense has been hit or miss, goes in hand with why, he hasn't been an everyday center fielder for the Mets this year, and we're kind of seeing that rust a little bit with Bader having lesser play because his bat has been a liability as of late. We have seen for the past couple weeks. Vientos there in the 3-hole that we saw. Then we saw Pete Alonso, Winker, Marte, Iglesias, McNeil, and Alvarez. Bader and Tyrone came in as late game defensive replacements in this one, but no one came in as a pinch hitter because the Mets thankfully didn't need a pinch hitter. So after they go down because Cutter Crawford strikes out the side that we saw there in the bottom of the second, the Mets would thankfully get the offense early sooner than you think here, and it would be after we'd see a top of the third, a brilliant work there from David Peterson, another 1-2-3 inning, including a pair of strikeouts. David Peterson already has 6 Ks on the day through 3 innings when he is just a strikeout shy of his season high of 7 7 this year, and it's safe to say he blows right past that thing. Jed McNeil gets on that we see with a 1-out walk, and then Francisco Lindor, Mr. Smile, my MVP and yours, does the amazing thing. Rips his 30th home run of the year, a towering shot, gives the Mets a early 2-0 lead, and the Metsies would never look back in this matchup. What else can I say about Francisco Lindor? We're going to break it down a little bit in here in a little bit, everybody, but seriously, what Lindor has done from since batting leadoff this season, batting over 300 with a 380 OBP, a well over 500 slug for over 930 OPS and a 135 or so a WRC plus, which means he's 35% better than the average batter in baseball, a plus 15 and outs above average, which is in the 99th percentile, basically saying Lindor is the most elite shortstop in the game of baseball, not named Dansby Swanson defensively, for example. And Lindor is quite literally having such a well-rounded season, on pace for the 30 bags again, that this is a guy that is as really five-tool of a player that you could ask for right now. That is why Francisco Lindor, when we've been raving about him, this isn't just like, oh, this is typical Francisco Lindor. He is performing at an all-time high level. He's feeding off the energy, and he is single-handedly looking at this Mets team and being the leader and proving it by example. He's done his talking plenty, going back to the Jorge Lopez situation a couple months ago, in which Lopez, funny enough, after being the Cubs' best reliever for the past month plus, just gave up two-run shots to the Pirates to lose it, and the Cubs lost a dramatic one yesterday. Shout out to the Pittsburgh Pirates for getting that one done. We appreciate that a lot in the wild card standings, but the point I'm trying to make here is Lindor is doing things right now at an unprecedented level for even himself and his career. He's having a career-best season offensively and a career-best season right now overall. And to just tell you how good of a category Lindor has now found himself in, he is just the third shortstop in Major League history to have I believe it was 4 or 5. Let me double check here and make sure that I have the proper stat. Yes, 30 plus homers in at least 5 straight seasons, or at least in 5 seasons overall, with minimum 50 games played at shortstop. Francisco Lindor is now third there, only trailing Alex Rodriguez and Ernie Banks. And if you exclude Ernie Banks, if you want to talk about guys that played full-fledged just shortstop every game, then it's just A-Rod and it's just Francisco Lindor. For all the people that wanted Francisco Lindor to be that guy this season, he is being that guy and then some. I don't want to hear any nonsense to suggest that is anything otherwise. Where was this in April and May? Priest, it doesn't matter because it's here now, buddy. It is here now. And since this has begun, the Mets have had the best record between themselves, the Phillies, and the Braves here in the National League East. No, I'm not exaggerating. If we go all the way back to May 13th this season, the Mets have a better record than all the other teams in the National League East. So to suggest that the Mets are not only pushing for playoffs, but still have their eyes potentially on the NL East title is not all that out of the realm of possibility, with their 7 games left against the Phillies, 3 against the Braves, and those big matchups that we have here coming up this month for sure. But let's get into this one now, folks. Let's break down this massive 7-2 victory, because after the Mets take that 2-0 lead, thanks to Mr. Smile doing Mr. Smile things, we would see David Peterson take the order down 1-2-3 yet again against the Red Sox, including another strikeout. There you go. He ties the season high 7-4. He's cruising. Mets go down in order in the bottom of the 4th. Cutter Crawford was looking great earlier in this one. Outside that bomb, that was like the one bad pitch Cutter Crawford had the majority of the ball game. Masataka Yoshida, who greeted his fellow countrymen and good friend during their time in the MPB, and Kodai Senga pregame, got on with a leadoff single there in the inning. Then we would see Nick Sogard drive in the first run for Boston today. Sogard, who is just having, his first taste at the MLB level, especially batting from the right or left side. He is related to Eric Sogard, that we all know very well. I always think Eric Sogard with the Chicago Cubs more than anything. But Sogard, though, or even, I'm pretty sure he was on the Oakland A's too. He's all over the place. Toronto Blue Jays, maybe? Yeah, that's Sogard with the glasses. I know him well. Boston makes it a 2-1 ball game in this one, unfortunately. But afterwards, David Peterson gets out of the jam brilliantly. Rob Refsnyder gets on with a single, but then he strikes out Jarren Duran to leave those runners on base to avoid it from being a tied ball game. David Peterson screaming his head off, juiced up, rightfully so. How can you not be after that big strikeout against the most lethal batter in this Boston Red Sox lineup, not named Rafi Devers? Starling Marte got on with a leadoff walk in the 5th, but Jose Iglesias grounded into a double play. Nothing else happened there. Then we get on to the top of the bottom of the 5th. pardon me, top of the 6th, because we were just in the bottom of the 5th. I'm getting my innings a little flip-flop here. Tyler O'Neill then got on with a single that we saw there. Then it's a Romy Gonzalez walk, so there's 2 on here for David Peterson. And what happens? Masataka Yoshida grounds into a force out. Huge out that we would see there, and no runs would ultimately score. Gets Danny Jansen with a fly out, and that does it for David Peterson's outing, everybody. 6 brilliant innings for the Mets. Mind you, he didn't get to 100 pitches or anything like that, but the Mets didn't need him to. This was just part of the ordeal with Peterson looking fantastic and wanting to make sure that things stay that way and you didn't, push your luck too much. On his birthday, David Peterson hits the showers. Maybe an inning early to him, but he seemed happy, he seemed comfortable, and I would be too. If I'm going to go out on my 29th birthday and have a career-high 11 strikeouts, the most in Mets history as a starter pitching on their birthday, that's a pretty cool thing to do. David Peterson, 6 innings of 6 hit, 1 earned run ball, 1 walk, 11 strikeouts, a 2.75 ERA on this season. I got to ask each and every one of you on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the Southpaw's outing today? I will give you my rating here a little bit when we break down him further for a complete deep dive on his arsenal and what stood out so well in this matchup against the Red Sox. Mind you, David Peterson made his MLB debut back in 2020, the shortened season, in Boston against the same Red Sox. So it's kind of a nice full circle moment. Fast forward here a number of years on his birthday, carving up the same team that he got his career started with. Pretty cool little story there, but we'll deep dive him more shortly, everybody. But let's get back into breaking down this masterful win for the Metsies, taking this one by a final score of 7-2. And as we get back into breaking down this one to a T inning by inning here, we would see the Mets get to the 7th inning, and this was after going down in order there that we saw in the bottom of 6, 1, 2, 3. Cutter Crawford was brilliant that we saw. 6 innings of work, 2 earned run balls, 8 strikeouts. If it wasn't for that home run, thanks to Francisco Lindor, the hottest hitter in the National League at least, it very well could have been a Boston Red Sox lead, 1-0. But thankfully, Lindor was a difference. That would hold true later on in this one, because we would then see Jose Butto come in and strike out everyone and their mother. He shuts down the Red Sox quickly. After a quick pop out of Rafael, he strikes out Casas and Abreu back-to-back to end it in the 7th. Then we see in the bottom of the 7th, the Mets are trying to get more offense or trying to get insurance. And this is where Slayton, the former Mets prospect turned foe, gives up a meatball of a hanger to Marky Vio. And imagine having a hanger of a breaking or off-speed pitch right down the dick to Mark Vientos, one of the hottest third basemen in all Major League Baseball this season. He gets a no-doubter for sure, his 22nd home run of this season. The Mets are now up 3-1 in this ball game, and it would get better for sure, because we would see Pete get on with a single thereafter. Mets are done for the inning. Jose Butto has himself a jam. He walks Duran, walks O'Neill, and then we get on to what we see there with Reguera coming in as he sadly allows Rafael Devers get on base because of a fielder's choice. He throws back to second base, but everyone would be safe. But thankfully, after what we would see a sac fly from Emmanuel Valdez, which would be charged then to Butto and not to Reed Garrett escapes the jam with the most brilliant double play that you could ask for, which was issued from Masataka Yoshida. Huge turn. Reed Garrett juiced up there, got the big red beard going. Reed, who has been Jekyll and Hyde for the Mets this season, has performed better as of late. And to see Reed Garrett come in a 2-on, no-out situation in the 8th inning and take care of business the way he did was absolutely huge. Love to see that for Reed Garrett, as this is a guy that if he can handle these kind of leverage situations for the Mets, they have another arm that they can continue to look and lean upon in these type of situations. Obviously understand the context of the way the game is going and the offensive team that you're playing against, but Reed Garrett, brilliant move here by that we saw in Carlos Mendoza, one that maybe wouldn't have worked a couple days ago is working tonight here, and we will greatly appreciate and greatly take that. Alvarez gets on with a single that we see in the bottom of the 8th. Alvarez struggled mightily swinging the bat. He's batting right around, 150 or so over his past 30-plus games. Alvarez has really labored dealing with those injuries to his shoulder and his thumb this year, and the Mets are continue to try to nitpick his approach, but it seems like that this is sadly one of those things where you just hope he gets hot before the end of the season, that can help carry the Mets into postseason play should they find themselves in that position. But Francisco Lindor is doing everything he can, as I've alluded to how many times in the show, to bring the Mets to playoffs, and this time it's thanks to an opposite field double his 37th not extra base hit, his 37th double alone this season, gives the Mets a 4-2 lead after we would see McNeil and Alvarez get on against Chris Martin here in the bottom of the 8th. Then with a sac fly from Mr. Brandon Nimmo, who did not swing the bat all that well today at all, still laboring, still trying to find his groove consistently. Nimmo had a nice day yesterday though for sure. Then we see with 2 outs, Polar Bear Pete Alonso gets all of that one. A no doubt shot into the night. The Citi Field is rocking. It's his 31st home run this season. The Mets are up 7-2, and they go on to win this ball game by a final score of 7-2. As we would see come in for the 9th inning, Ryan Stanek work a 1-2-3 inning and get Tristan Casas striking out, called out after a grind of an at-bat, a 10-pitch at-bat between himself and Casas. Mark Vientos is really good buddy that many of you guys probably don't know about. Going back to their time, I want to say going all the way back to high school. I could be wrong. Vientos and Casas go way back because I saw a tweet yesterday that someone retweeted of Tristan tagging Mark Vientos, talking about, like, let's go Mets, because Mark grew up a Mets fan, as we know, and it was really cool going all the way back to 2015, roughly a decade ago, that connection between the two and the Mets, and fast forward all the way here, another full circle type moment. Mets win this one by a final score of 7-2. They get a brilliant outing from David Peterson, their young southpaw, who's looking more and more as an ace caliber pitcher by the day. What, you thought Sean Manaea was the Mets ace, in which he was awesome, talking about what's worked so well for him this season, and really being humble, speaking about how he's been getting praise, as Brandon Ellis said, best he's seen since Jacob deGrom, basically. So you know that's great praise, right? So what we've seen from Sean Manaea, David Peterson, and this entire staff, Sevy with a brilliant outing yesterday too, we are spoiled, Mets fans. We are spoiled. And as much as I have nitpicked and as much as I have grown at times about guys like Jeremy Hefner, because I think he takes way too long to get out there when guys find themselves in jams or whatever it might be, there's no denying that, at least on the rotation front, the Mets have went about things quite well, to say the least, especially in the second half of the season, to see their starters make the proper adjustments and now kick things into a new gear when they need to, where every game is a playoff game for the rest of the season. That is my biggest takeaway with not only David Pearson, but this rotation configuration right now. They're all locked the hell in, no matter who's out there for the most part. And now we're going to bring Paul Blackburn before we know it. I know that he's the lesser of the group, but that shows you that if we're getting these brilliant outings and Blackburn can just handle his own, the Mets are going to find themselves in a very interesting position by the month's end, and they can still carry their weight against the Phillies, against the Braves, against the Brewers that we mentioned before. I firmly believe that they can to an extent. They've shown their ability to handle these high leverage situations and to overcome them. Let's see if that continues. But right here, what we have seen has been full proof that the Mets can go out there, they can do it, and they can do it no matter how good or bad the opponent is. They will find themselves in the ball game. Just got to make sure you don't play down to your competition, and we all know that very well, everybody. Let's see here in the chat, guys. Thank you all so much for chiming into the latest in Mets land as we're breaking down a victorious matchup for the Mets, winning by a final score of 7-2. In a minute, we're going to get into the key takeaways with David Pearson and what worked so well for him in today's outing, a bit more on the offensive end and just how good Francisco Lindor has been. Then from there, we'll transfer into any other key updates in Mets land that will be separate from cutting it out of the live show, and then we will do our individual segment on the big Mets updates with David Stearns, Francisco Lindor, Sean Reed-Foley, Paul Blackburn, among plenty others. Alvin with the $2 haul says, the Mets sweep Phillies, be it a sweep. If the Mets sweep the Phillies at any point here in the month of September, I'm going to go absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. Alvin, thank you so much for the donation. I appreciate that a lot, my man. I appreciate you guys all taking the time to chime in the live show right now. Now, we got a lot of people on X, so if you guys are watching on X, make sure you head over back to the YouTube channel. That way you hit that like and subscribe button and get involved here with the largest Mets community that's been growing amazingly for the past 3+ years now. Add another candle to your Hakutua Shrine, Mets fans. Seriously, Priest, that is probably the biggest thing that you have preached, my man. We were joking yesterday in yesterday's postgame show. Who do we have to thank for this Mets run from a non-realistic standpoint? You know, between Grimace, between the Rally Pimp, between even the little dog that we saw even on the road trip in Arizona and others, you know, that little dog, like he looked like a little whippet, whatever he is, I'm not exactly sure. No less, the Mets have had a lot of rallies from, you know, basically not actual reasons. And the latest one that we were joking about was, what is the Mets record since the Hakutua girl throughout the first pitch? Because it's obviously above 500. They weren't playing great originally around that time, but since then they've been playing really well. So collectively, we're going to nitpick something or we're going to point to something. I guess it's going to be that. Unless you guys got any other ideas, let me know. Iggy is the dog's name. You're right, Gio. I appreciate that. Let's see. D great member, Rebecca. Dado Caps great member. Wow, Toronto was up the whole game. Yes, they were. Literally, I'm not shocked about that one. Kyle Schwarber just hit his 3rd home run in the game, and the Phillies tie it in the 9th inning. Of course they do. Kyle Schwarber hitting tanks in Toronto is far from shocking when that is a home run ballpark for a guy that's going to eat meatballs up for the Mets here in the month of September. 13-6 in the Hawktua era, Zach. That's all I need to hear. 13-6. Shout out to you. What's her first name? Something Welch. Whatever her first, Haley Welch, is that her name? Haley Welch. Shout out to you, Haley. And honestly, for everyone that were giving her crap, she went there for the purpose of helping promote Mets vet dogs and what they do there about helping bring dogs to Citi Field and have them around the park all the time to help out veterans as well. And they ultimately land in veteran homes. She did that to take advantage of her platform for something good. That's why the Mets invite her in the first place. But a lot of people couldn't comprehend the fact of marketing, PR, understanding social media, and why it's far more than just, oh, yes, she's known for that, but that's not why they brought her there. They brought her there because of all the publicity actively going around with her right now. And they want to raise a charity for good, which I don't think is a bad thing. Yeah, it is Haley. Shout out Steve, great member in here as well. Let's go, Wardy Blood Diamond. How are you? We're bringing the brooms out tomorrow. McGill gonna throw a complete game shot. All right, let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes, my man. Trust me, we would all love Sylor rather, to have a complete game shutty, but let's just have ourselves a comfortable series sweep against the Red Sox, okay? Tylor, go out there, give us solid 5-6 innings. That's all I'm asking. And the Mets offense, do what you got to do. Tanner Houck is going to be no slouch. I would not be shocked if the Mets drop the game tomorrow, but if they don't, that just shows you how much they're handling good pitching, because they bested Cutter Crawford because the Mets outpitched Cutter Crawford thanks to David Peterson. The same way that if they win tomorrow, I have a feeling it's going to go in hand with Tyler McGill handling his own, and the Mets hopefully showing up on a series finale that is finally, for once, not a day game. It's a night game tomorrow, folks. 7 p.m. Eastern, 7:10 or so tomorrow. That is going to benefit the Mets as their day versus night game record is drastically different. Mets are a very good team this season during night games, and like they've struggled in years past, have definitely labored during day games, especially on the weekends, Saturdays or Sundays. Let's see here, everybody. Dave with a $5 haul says, we will win tomorrow. Hawk to appreciate the donation. That is amazing. Mike, how are you? Happy to have you in the chat. Let's see here. Yo, Rory, get ready to see Quintana return to form in September. Let's go, Mets. Jeffrey, I hope you're right. Quintana has been horrendous every time out there, but he has just been a very Jekyll and Hyde this year where you don't know what you're getting every time out there. I know that goes for a lot of starters, but Jose has definitely been one of those examples for sure. But all right, guys, let's break down now the key takeaways, what worked so well for David Peterson this outing, talk a bit on the offense, a bunch of more. But before we do, folks, let's let it rip as we always do with our amazing sponsor on the channel that you all know very well, but listen up to, yes, BetUS.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Shout out to everybody for all their sports betting needs. Make sure you check out BetUS by clicking that link down below in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000, folks. And yesterday we did place a 2-leg parlay. So let's see how we did with that 2-leg parlay, because yesterday I did hammer the Phillies over the Blue Jays. I wish I did it with a live bet versus doing it premature last night, because the Phillies were trailing in this one the whole game. And now they're up 10-8 in this matchup, and they're likely going to win against the godforsaken Blue Jays, who are going nowhere this year. Talk about a waste of talent the past couple years. That is Toronto for sure. The Phillies, though, they're going to go on a win, barring any changes right now. That was one of the legs, and this is why my parlay isn't going to hit. I picked the Royals over the Guardians today, and the Royals are currently losing 7-1 there in the 9th. That is why I tell you all, if you're going to tail my picks, bet at your own caution, bet at your own risk, but make sure you bet responsibly with our great friends at BetUS by clicking that link down below. We hit on our previous 2-leg parlay prior to that, which was a combo of really a Subway Series. Hammer the Mets money line and hammer the Yankees money line, both hit a couple days ago. Went 1-1 on our games today. We'll see how we do for our next matchup that we will break down in tomorrow's show. So I hope to see you all there for that one. But as we now transition into what stood out so well about David Peterson and this outing, everybody, my big question to each and every one of you is, what was your initial expectation heading into the season, right? Herman, I'm doing fantastic, my man. Thank you so much for being in here. I'm very happy about that. Go Mets. Talk about the East. We're going to talk about the East. Don't you worry, brother. We're going to get into that. Appreciate you guys. But I want to know, what was your expectations for David Peterson heading into the season? Because what we have seen Peterson do this year has not only surprised pretty much everybody, but it's to the point that I genuinely want to know how many of you guys thought that David Peterson would be absolutely nails in this Mets rotation at any point this year, especially for a guy who didn't begin the season until June because he started late with that hip surgery that I had this past offseason. And talk about doing wonders for a player. That hip surgery is exactly what my guy needed. Literally, we're seeing the best version of David Peterson yet, and it could not come at a better time. And talking about David Peterson now, folks, let's deep dive his brilliant 6-inning, 11 strikeout, 1 earned run outing here against, yes, that being and the same team he faced to begin his career, the Boston Red Sox. This is a hilarious report that my guy Isaac relayed my way. I cannot wait to break this down. I love the little photo he put at the end of this. Okay, what we have here with David Peterson is his arsenal was as follows, everybody. Very four-seam very four-seam heavy. And all you guys are saying they had no expectations for Peterson this year. No expectations. Adrian Hauser, my man was getting lit up left and right. Thank God we got rid of that bomb. It's crazy that Adrian Hauser, Joey Wendell, Zach Shore played games for the Mets this year, guys. Like, that did happen. That did happen. And that happened for a decent stretch, too. No shit, the Mets were in play earlier this year with those guys on the roster. Just ain't going to work. 4-seam fastball 35% of the time. Sat 93 to 94 and topped out 96. Sinker 19% of the arsenal. Sat 92, top 94. Changeup 17% of the arsenal. Sat 84, topped 87. Curveball 16% of the arsenal. Sat 79, top 81. Slide piece 13% of the arsenal. Sat 80, 85, 86, topped out 88. On his birthday, David Peterson delivered a vintage performance. He induced whiffs at a rate we haven't seen in a while, with 11 strikeouts and 20 whiffs, including a whopping 14 on the fastball. Just for some context, everybody, Peterson used his fastball up in the zone more than ever before this season, achieving a whopping 70% whiff rate and allowing just a .201 XWOBA, indicating minimal hard contact. The velocity on his fastball was up, and it had an extra inch of rise on it, which I think went in hand with him pitching and having that moxie, that bulldog mentality, knowing it's his birthday today and he wanted to go out and show out on his big day. That's the best gift he could have asked for, I'm sure, so we love that from David. And although Pearson's fastball velocity isn't overly exceptional, it appears faster due to his elite extension with that 6'4" plus frame, and his fastball is perceived as 1.5 miles per hour faster than what it actually is. So while he averaged 93.6, he was really looking 95 plus and topping out 97, 98 today is how it was at least perceived there by the batters of Jarren Duran, of Rafi Devers, and of everyone there in that Boston Red Sox lineup. This effect also applied to his sinker, which performed well today with a 107 stuff plus rating, which means it's 7% better than the average pitcher in baseball with that pitch specifically when we look at the sinker, so 7% better than the league average, and it had an average of 16 inches of horizontal movement, well above average there, helping him tie up left-handed hitters inside beautifully. Pearson's changeup was also effective. It had a 57.1 chase percentage, awesome, and a 109 stuff plus rating, and Peterson now has a 1.81 ERA in his last 7 starts. While his underlying numbers during this stretch are a little bit concerning, his stuff was on another level today, very encouraging. 7.5 out of 10 is what my guy and Isaac Groppin gave him, and I am going to go with a 7.5 out of 10 as well. I'm not going to go 8 because he didn't even give the Mets 7 innings today, but giving us 6 innings of quality work, dominating the entire time and striking out everyone their mother is nothing to scoff at. And funny enough, as Isaac alluded to, yes, the underlying numbers aren't nearly as pretty as you would initially think when we evaluate someone such as David Peterson. This season, he's had a lot of luck on his side. There's no denying that. But that luck is also, I think, went directly in hand with his approach as a pitcher. There's one thing to be said about luck. There's also another about knowing when to induce those huge double play ground ball outs, and knowing that, yes, there's some luck on side, but that just goes in hand with having an elite infield behind him, led by Francisco Lindor. You know, when you have the Mets' ability to really handle their own defensively the way that they have really honed in the past month, if we exclude those hiccups from Vientos and those rare hiccups from Lindor on the road trip when the Mets were not performing well to begin the month of August versus how they rounded out the month of August, what we're seeing from them has been massive, all things considered. And now the Mets are just playing on a balanced level right now. They're doing what they need to do every single day David Peterson, I cannot say enough great things about the outing that he found himself having in this one. What the F, man? Lindor, holy smokes. MVP, MVP, MVP. Eric, my man, you were 1,000% right. MVP indeed, brother. And here's the thing. We can all be biased Mets fans all we want, but this is so much more than bias when we're saying MVP for Francisco Lindor. Literally, you're a casual fan if you don't think that Francisco Lindor is an MVP caliber player this year. If you care at all about numbers that are actually important in today's game beyond just batting average and OPS, WRC plus, OAA, all these things are good too, but I have the F4 right now. Fangraphs went above replacement. Lindor leading the way entering tonight's game with a full 7 WAR season already to Shohei Ohtani's 6.6 or so when he's playing defense at an elite rate. That just shows you the difference that Francisco Lindor has been pretty much since what? Right around middle of May, mid to late May is when it fully began in that leadoff spot. Churno, 199 donation. Thank you so much, brother. Swaggy V, they called us madmen. Where y'all at? Seriously, where y'all at indeed? Swaggy V, I know Churno loves his Vientos more than most, and I loved him too. He continues to tear the cover off the ball. And speaking of Vientos, let's transition into the key updates here on the Mets with their offense. What were the key takeaways? Let's rapid fire this one as well, because I got a little bit of say on not only the Mets' offensive contributions today as a whole, but also a bit more on some of the latest performances from these guys. So Lindor 2 for 4 that we saw there with the RBI, 3 RBIs thanks to the home run and the nice RBI double that he found himself having as well, or RBI double. Yep, and now Francisco Lindor, folks, 84 RBIs on the season. We're looking at a 273 average, a 843 OPS, and 68 extra base hits. Lindor, who was nothing but a home run and double machine last year, is exactly that again, but now is providing the contact that he was missing last season. You guys see the difference? It's insane. It's not even fair. It really isn't. Brandon Nimmo, bad day. Over 3, 229 average, 742 OPS. Simple as that. Didn't have a good day. Mark Vientos that we saw there, 1 for 4 with the home run, a 281 average and 881 OPS. Marky V with already 22 home runs on the season for a guy who didn't have the third base job for the first month plus because of Brett Beatty commanding the way, which is crazy to say. Pete Alonso, 2 for 4 that we saw with his towering 2-run shot there in the 8th inning, a 242 average and 799 OPS. Let's get Pete back above 800 plus for the OPS. Can you please get on a tear here, Pete? Because if there's any time to do it, it's now before the season ends when we have our biggest matchups yet. Let's see that happen. Jesse Winker went 0 for 4, batting 5th in DH today with a pair of strikeouts, like Alonso with a pair of strikeouts, a 267 average, a 789 OPS. Starling Marte 0 for 2, a 272 average, 719 OPS. Harrison Bader, who did not get an at-bat like Tyrone Taylor. Taylor was 240 with a 680 OPS, and Harrison Bader 246 with a 673. Jose Iglesias 0 for 3 today, a rare offer for Jose, a 310 average and a 795 OPS. Jose Iglesias is finally falling from grace a little bit. Not going to be in that OPS range of 800 plus, but that all changes with a double tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. Jeff McNeil, 1 for 2 with 2 runs scored, a 240 average, a 696 OPS. Hopefully Jeff figured out what was ever going on with his plumbing issue a couple days. If you know, you know. He tweeted he posted on Instagram late night 2 nights ago. Is there someone that is open late, to help us? We have a problem like with a clogged toilet, which I thought was hilarious. Hopefully that's rectified, Jeff, back at home with the kiddo and with the wifey. And of course with your dog Willow, I believe. Alvarez 1 for 3 with the run scored. Nice hit for Albie before the game wrapped up. A 234 average, a 664 OPS on the season. We talked at great length about Francisco Lindor, and we will again before the show ends because I want to do it as part of my separate segment here that will cut out here shortly. But a couple other guys I want to highlight here. It's just the impact. We talked so much about Francisco Lindor leading the charge for the Mets this season. And we have talked greatly as of late about Jesse Winker's heroics for the Mets. Batting tremendous, batting over 300, since arriving with the Mets now. Starting to tap in more of that power that we have seen as of late. But let's just appreciate once more the greatness that is Mark Vientos. A 281 average, a 337 on base percentage, a 537 slug for now we're at an 881 OPS because that wasn't as updated as I was just relaying your way. What we have seen from Mark Vientos this season, what has stood out is the following. Yes, he's in the 6th percentile in whip percentage. Yes, he's in the 14th percentile in K percentage. Walk percentage right around the league average at 45th percentile. But when it comes to squaring up baseballs, sweet spot bat speed, he's all around middle of the pack, league average there in the league. What separates Vientos from the rest and is exactly why he has been having the success he's had this year. 76th percentile in the hard hit percentage, absolutely torments baseballs. 95th percentile in barrel percentage, one of the most elite hitters in Major League Baseball this season there in barrel percentage. Average exit velocity, 83rd percentile. Expected slugging, 84th percentile. Expected batting average, just above league average. And expected WOBA, 75th percentile. The range defensively is not great, but the arm strength is above league average at 67th percentile. And the 87th percentile in batting run value, base run value, and fielding run value aren't there, but that's not what you're looking for Vientos. We talk so much about Francisco Lindor. We have every single day, but we cannot forget what guys like Mark Vientos have done for the Mets this season, because without Mark Vientos, this Mets team would not be anywhere near where they currently are. Vientos was that lone bright spot when Lindor was not really getting red hot yet. Lindor was not doing the walk-off heroics that we saw Vientos do against the Cardinals when the Mets were not playing good baseball and salvaged their series from, really losing that one earlier in the year. Vientos has clutched up for the Mets in numerous moments where they maybe weren't looking good collectively, but Mark was that one standout. Now we're seeing Lindor stand out greatly for the past number of months consistently. This past month, he's on a heater like never before this year, but then you have Mark Vientos continuing to back him up with that elite power that we have seen every single night. And this is exactly why I have such a big issue when Mark Vientos is not in the lineup for the Mets. He needs to be out there every single day. There is nothing to justify Mark Vientos not being in the lineup every day. Yes, I understand you're going to platoon him with Iglesias at times. I don't agree with that completely. Why? Because as good as Jose has been for the Mets this season, Vientos' power can definitely impact games a little bit more. Jose's elite ability to get on base, great defense, those are all factors, and I appreciate that a lot about him greatly. But Mark Vientos has been such an X factor for the Mets when it comes to the power front, and power has helped lead the way for this Mets team more often than not this season when they have been on their best heaters. Jose Iglesias has been tremendous in his own right too, deserves plenty of flowers. A guy that I want to be opposed to returning again next year, but Iglesias, what the difference here is, Vientos is doing this as an inexperienced MLB player and has all the confidence in the world. Took all the doubters, took all the nonsense, all the noise heading into the season and said, watch this. That is why I'm so obsessed with Mark Vientos this season. He has been brilliant. He really has been. And this is a guy that we're looking at the future for the Mets. Not necessarily just at the hot corner, could be more at first base depending on the future of Pete Alonso. Either way, Marky V ain't going anywhere, and for obvious reasons. Now to get back in this one, everybody, as we're breaking down a victorious matchup for the Mets, winning 7-2 as your final, we're going to get into our big updates here in a second. I'll cut things out for my replay viewers here shortly, but before I get into a little bit more on all those things, I want a quick shout out my guy, Anthony Rivera at the Subway to Shape podcast, and great friend of mine, and we're going to have you back on the channel, my man, and let's try to get that going actually sometime next week for a series. I think that'd be fantastic. Shout out to Anthony. Yes, Mr. Smile, you said it best, baby. The most valuable player out there. Make sure to check out my guy, Anthony Rivera. Great friend of mine, does great work as well on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. AZ with the $10 haul says, Mike Kane, our superstar, our franchise player, Francisco Lindor, really doing it all. Swaggy V with the bomb. P with the insurance bomb. Mets W, put in the books, baby. LFGM, I am hyped up. You're hyped up. I'm hyped up. Let's get it going, baby. That is what we love to see. Dave, my man, Dave Coffer, how are you? Great game, great win, baby. Big home run by Vientos indeed. Going up and down the list here, what you guys got for me. Let's agree. Morty agreed. Vientos needs as many at-bats as possible. I agree. And I know Vientos has been striking out at a great clip since being moved into the 2-hole. I'm aware of that. Not disregarding that. I also don't care too much as long as that isn't a glaring hole for the Mets winning or losing ball games. Is there an underlying problem with the Mets as of late that we're not talking about enough? Yes. The Mets, up until the breakout that we saw later in this ball game, have been struggling with runners in scoring position throughout their past week to 10 games. The funny thing is, even with that being the case, it only matters so much because the Mets have been on such a great run the way that they have been. So what does that tell me? Yes, they haven't had their most elite offense as of late, but they've had enough to carry them with their pitching being as beautiful as it is. They have coincided with each other. The Mets offense is feeded off of the brilliant pitching that they've had, and coincidentally, their pitching has also fed off of their offensive contributions. One Lindor kicks off the ball game with, say, a leadoff bomb, or just gets on base right away, and then we score a run within the first 2 or 3 innings. You're feeling comfortable. You're feeling good if you're David Peterson. You're feeling good if you're Sean Manaea. Those early runs, those early cushions build a confidence for you far greater than Jacob deGrom having to do a dominant outing of 7 innings of 15 strikeout ball and no earned runs just to get the no decision. Thankfully, this is a different Mets team than the deGrom in time where they had no offense but all the pitching to show. They're getting a balance right now, and that is huge for this Mets team. Anthony, thank you so much for the $1 haul. Yes, we got over 1,000 on X right now watching, Eric. That is correct. Appreciate all you guys immensely. We're at roughly 1,500 concurrent right now between YouTube and Twitter. Thank you guys so much for that. Help us get to 300 likes for our short-term goal here on YouTube. So we're over 400 concurrent viewers. We're just 100 away. Thank you so much for that. We will win tomorrow. Haktua, if I didn't mention that already by you, Dave, earlier in the chat with the donation. Thank you so much, brother. You're the best. But all right, guys, let's get into a bit more on this one that I want to break down in the update segment. So we're going to transition into doing exactly that. Then after our update segment, I am going to take your amazing live calls. I'm going to take 3 or 4 tonight. Unfortunately, I can't take, north of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which I prefer and would like to do. I don't have as much free time tonight as I would like. No less, I want to try to address as many of you guys in a short time as I can. So now to all my replay viewers, this is where I'll be cutting things off. Let us know your biggest takeaway down below from the Mets' key 7-2 Game 2 victory. Another series victory. They're 6 straight, and they look for a 7th straight. That would be a season high for them this year, tying a season high or so, and having themselves hopefully in a playoff spot if the Rockies can muster at least one win and their series there against the Atlanta Braves. And before I let you go, I want to make sure that I didn't miss anything notable. I actually did miss, there were 1 or 2 things I want to mention, but the one here is that regarding David Peterson, my final stat for you guys, shout out Michael Mayer of Mets Rise for tweeting this earlier. Most strikeouts by a left-handed pitcher on their birthday in MLB history. Randy Johnson, Marcelion, I'm butchering this. Okay, Marceliano Lopez had 12, Randy had 14, Gary Peters had 12, Frank Tanana had 11, and now David Peterson has 11. Yes, David Peterson is now in top 5 category in MLB history for most strikeouts by a southpaw pitcher on their birthday. Is it a random stat? Yes. Is it a cool one? Yes, it is. So now, folks, let's get into all these details to all my replay viewers. This is where we'll cut things off. Let us know your big takeaway down below in the comments, and stay tuned for our separate segment that will be posted early, probably in the morning tomorrow, barring changes by the time that you're watching this, possibly on Blackburn, on Stearns, on Lindor, and plenty more. For my live viewers, let's continue on with the live show. To my replay viewers, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out. Oh, wait, and final thing, can't forget it. Shout out BetUS for all your sports betting needs. Make sure to check them out once more by clicking that link down in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. Check them out down below. Got to make sure you get the intro and outro in there, even though I'm going to cut it off. And let's go Mets, baby.